I've helped 45 people break into consulting, tech, and build their own startups. And the greatest impact I had on them was a three-step process to taking in a ton of information, having it make sense, and being able to use that information for whatever you want to do. So this three-step process is a process I came up with over the course of 4 years. See, I was never actually a really good student. I did good. I had great grades in high school and I did good in school. However, over time, I was having a harder and harder time getting good grades, meeting the expectations that I had for myself and others had for me. And I realized the reason was I never really learned how to learn. And so when I finally discovered the process that worked for me, I also found out that that same process worked for everyone else. It's just the way our brain is wired. And so it's really just a three-step process. And it does directly relate back to how you were taught in school, except you can make it a lot more fun and engaging in the real world, especially when you're trying to learn something really quickly or something that you find interesting or something that's just sometimes required out of you. So we can start with step one, which is prime the brain. And so what essentially your brain does is it likes to not spend that much energy. Like your brain is inherently lazy, and it's not about your character. It's just the way we're like biologically framed. We are trying to keep all our energy for when we're trying to save ourselves from some sort of danger. So we try to avoid it when we don't need to. And necessarily, learning is not something you need to do. It's something that you should do if you want to accomplish a lot of stuff in your life. But your brain doesn't think of it that way. And so you have to prime your brain and just get it like kind of like without having to invest too much attention or too much time or too much effort, just like understand the concept on a very loose term. So for example, I am an engineer by trade. Like my major was engineering, and so sometimes we would have concepts like operating systems. Operating systems are like your Mac OS, your Windows, and these are huge, huge, complicated programs. And I wouldn't really understand how to do them. And so under these systems, there would be concepts something like let's say there's something like scheduling, and let's make sure you can actually see this. There would be concepts like scheduling, tasks, programming, just like general, like how do you run all these programs together? And every single concept was very complicated. So what I did was I went through every unit in my classes and I said, let me just find the top 10 videos that everyone has watched because I'm a visual learner and I watched like there were 15 units, there were 10 videos for each unit. I watched 150 videos and I did this while just going about my day. So each video was about 10 minutes, 1,500 minutes. I usually watch my videos on 2x speed, so maybe like 750 minutes of actual commitment of time. It's like about 12 to 13 hours of work, but it was just watching the videos, not doing anything, not taking any notes, nothing else. Just like over the course of a weekend, I went about my day. I had them playing on the TV, and I had them playing on my laptop if I moved to somewhere else where the TV wasn't. And basically, my brain, what happened was, if we consider this your brain, I'll make the squiggly lines. It doesn't necessarily know exactly what to do, but if it like takes in some information, like say this is the info. Sorry, this is like really bad handwriting. In fact, I'll actually get rid of this so you guys don't have to see it. It's that bad. Um, say this is the info. I'm gonna just type it. What will happen is it won't like as necessarily know what to do with that, but little bits of this information, if you think of the information as small little pellets, little bits of it will eventually just seep into your brain and sit here. Not all of it, but eventually your brain will be, having a little bit of operating system in it, or it'll have a little bit of if you're trying to learn art history, or if you're trying to learn a new language, some bits and pieces will be sitting in there. So almost all of Spanish class, I did not try to learn it at all. I basically primed my brain for like years. And so I know a few phrases, I know a few words, but I never actually applied that knowledge. I never like tried to learn it and memorize it. And I am bilingual. I can speak other languages like Hindi or Urdu, but what I can't speak is Spanish, but I still have bits and pieces of it in my head so that if I'm like listening to a nice song or if I just happen to bump into someone in person or when I went on my trip to Mexico, it made sense. Now, this is what priming the brain is. It's literally the lowest investment you can put in, which is just watch a bunch of videos or just read a bunch of articles and do it in like one big sprint. Don't do it all over the place. Don't be like, "Oh, I'm going to do this daily for like 12 days or 12 weeks or whatever." That's where step two comes in. And I'll show you how to do that like in a fun way. But right now it's just like, how much information can I quickly cram into my brain? And this is not to like for a test. This is not what's going to help you like pass your test really quickly, but it will certainly make it so your brain is now more um, ready to learn information going forward. And that's called priming. So that's step one. And this is how you can learn a lot of information really quickly. So let's now move this to the side. And then we have step two, which is spaced repetition. So if you guys have ever heard of this software, it's called Anki. It's very similar to Quizlet, which is just like, flashcards. And so the idea is that your brain um, is pretty good at memorization. If you just keep looking at the same thing over and over again, you'll memorize. I'm really bad with maps and like just understanding how to get somewhere from one place to another. So I use Google Maps for everything. But over time, I have learned directions without needing Google Maps because I've taken the same journey over and over and over again. And so at some point, I don't need to see the maps, even though I've never learned the streets. I just know how to go based on like the buildings around me, or sometimes even like a gut feeling. And so your brain is pretty good at memorization. The reason it's good at memorization, and the only times it's really is good, is spaced repetition, which is a big word for basically memorizing the same thing or doing the same thing over and over again for a long period of time, and doing it at an interval that makes sense. So you like take your journey to your like local metro station. You're doing that almost every single day, or like 3 times a week at least, and all of a sudden that's something you'll memorize really quickly without ever needing to actually like read through a map. Um, so in Anki, that's like an open source flashcard software. Doctors or pre-med students use this when they're studying to get into med school for MCAT. MCAT is like an 8-hour test. They have to basically memorize textbooks as a whole, and so they built this software, and they can memorize full textbooks and get like almost perfect scores within 3 weeks of prep. And that really shows the ability that your brain has to learn really quickly. Even if you read the book like How to Moonwalk with Einstein or something, it was basically this random guy was like, I'm going to get into the memory competitions and get into like the top three or top three places. And he did. He basically used spaced repetition, he used a bunch of different memorization techniques like mnemonics and all that. You don't need to know all of that. Just realize that you need to have the content you're trying to learn. You need to be able to see it every single day or every other day in in a way that'll keep you engaged. So I don't mind doing flashcards, but I know like sometimes I don't want to do flashcards. For example, um, I got into software, and so I was trying to learn system design. Basically, how do you build these massive softwares that like go across different systems and go across different computers? Just like it's not like a simple line of code, right? It's going to be a lot of information. But system design, when I tried to read a textbook or watch even YouTube videos on it, didn't really make sense to me. So what I did was I brought it into my life. So what do I do every day? I read my email every single day, right? What else do I do? I watch YouTube every single day. And then lastly, I also look at Notion every single day. So I look at Notion. So what I did was I subscribed to newsletters about system design. And so what happened was I ended up naturally having to see system design newsletters every single day or every other day. There was like Coistar and others. And even though I didn't read every newsletter, sometimes I would just be like, "Oh, okay, I have nothing to do right now. Let me just read this." And it would force a little bit of system design into my head. Like for YouTube, I have this habit that whatever I'm trying to learn, I will unsubscribe from everything else and I will only subscribe to channels that have to do with it. So that if I do want to watch something else, I can just search it into the search bar. But whenever I go to my explore page, I will only see, or my subscriptions page, I will only see what I'm trying to learn. So subscribed um, to only system design channels. And so I look at Notion for my to-do list, and Notion has this great ability that it will allow you to um, like pull in information from different documents and just like show them really quickly to you, and then they'll go away. And so what I did was I started bookmarking um, system design articles, just like that I would see randomly either through my newsletter or just like Google feed, and I had Notion show them really quickly to me, show them to me really quickly. And what that did was it made system design part of my everyday life. It made it my like daily commute to the metro station or my daily commute to the gym, which both I don't know which streets they're on. I just know how to get there. Uh, and this is ways you can make spaced repetition and without having to do like necessarily flashcards and make it interesting. So say you're wanting to learn, like I want to learn uh, like strategy consulting, which is something I've helped a great deal of people like get into. Well, what I would tell them is like, okay, subscribe to WSJ and like Bloomberg um, newsletters. So now, whenever you check your email, like even if you read every third email from these guys, like it'll like work. Now for YouTube channels, I'd say like subscribe to um, Company Man or subscribe to Forbes, stuff like that that would necessarily show you their content. And maybe even if you watched 1 out of 10 videos they post, it'll still be worth it. And then lastly, I would say like you want to learn strategy consulting. Um, Bookmark a bunch of articles that are interesting. Um, and even if you don't want to use like Notion, what you can just say is like, every day I will read one. So you're bookmarking maybe like 10, 15, 20, just so you feel like it's there, but you're only really reading one, and that maybe takes like 2 minutes to read. So it's like it's doable. And I can assure you that over the course of a few months, you will be very, very well versed in strategy consulting. As long as you only read the newsletters that are to do with strategy consulting and you look at the videos that had to do with strategy consulting. And this is where spaced repetition will come into play. So that's step two. You have now gone from step one, which is priming your brain, where you take in a lot of information really quickly and just have it like a little bit in your brain, just sitting there dormant, not doing really anything. And then you next thing you did was you like did spaced repetition, so you made it part of your day to day life. And so if I can pull this, so this is right here, and then this is right here. And then the last part, what you can do is apply the knowledge. So if you remember science class, you would do like homework, you would do assignments, you would read your textbook, but that wasn't like all of science class. There would be experiments. There would be like build a volcano, cut open a pig. It might even be like cut open a frog. I know like different high schools did different uh, surgery operations. And so what you can do then is apply the knowledge. So for example, one summer I really was into like startups that were like software related and like copywriting and just in general, how do I push a product out there? So I made it a goal that every other week I would push a new product out and I would learn about copywriting and programming in the middle. And so what would happen is I'd end up with like a bunch of different startups or like products that I was pushing out there, and they would all be out in the world. And over time, I got really good at how do I build a product really quickly? And so Stanford actually did a study on this. They compared someone who created um, one pot over the course of a week compared to someone who created like 100 pots. And then they tried to get a bunch of people as judges to like determine whose pot was better. And guess who got like who was chosen? The 100th pot, even though that guy was given 1 week to do 100, and so he was doing them as quickly as he could, he was the one that had the best 100th pot compared to the one person who had a whole week to create just one perfect pot. That's because like repetition and like applying the knowledge actually has the greatest impact. So if you're trying to learn strategy consulting, find a local business, figure out what what they're trying to go into, and then just like go up to them. Don't like ask them to pay. Just say like, hey, here's a bunch of like questions I had. If they're a local business, they'd be more likely than not like happy to answer just because like they have nothing to lose. And you just let them know like I'm actually learning consulting. I just wanted to use this as an opportunity to learn. And if I gain anything out of this, I will let you have all the information. Or if you're trying to learn programming, you can do what I did. Every 2 weeks, ship a new product out. If you're trying to learn marketing, when I did that, I would have a new marketing campaign every week. So I over time had like made thousands of headlines. I'd made hundreds of images over just a couple of months or weeks. And so what ended up happening was I became like top 10th percentile in terms of like how good my ads were performing on Meta. I chose a very specific niche, right? I didn't do every ad. Similar to that, for programming, I made it possible that I could build out a product within 2 days. In consulting, I would build out like PowerPoint decks every single day for 2 years straight, and by the end, I was able to build out full project length, thousand slide decks within like 2-3 weekends, which is pretty incredible because like this was while I wasn't even doing like really consulting. I was actually training consultants. I wasn't doing consulting myself. And so what ends up happening is as you put in more reps, you become better. And it doesn't get easier. It just becomes that you have the nicks and knacks that you have to like pull the highest leverage items and you can just quickly get your work done. And so that's really what matters. You want to be able to do um, a lot of reps and just apply the knowledge you took in. And so to learn anything really, really quickly, you want to prime your brain. So like 2 days of just ingesting as much information into it as possible. Then you want to make it part of your day-to-day life. Make it like subscribe to the newsletters, change your YouTube or start a new Google account that you'll keep on your YouTube for like 3 weeks and make it so that only the only channels you're subscribed to on that account are to do with that topic. And then apply the knowledge. Figure out a quick way that you can do that every single weekend because I'm sure you're busy during the week. And using these 3 steps, you can learn how to, you know, ingest and take in information really quickly and make use of it. And so that's. I hope you enjoyed this. Please subscribe. If you enjoyed this material, it takes me a good deal of time to like come up with it. I do make it off the cuff, so like there is no script because I want you guys to be able to see that like um, this is stuff that over time it just becomes part of your brain and it's not something that people are like all of a sudden they like know it compared to when they didn't. Additionally, whenever I watch YouTube videos, I or like was and then was trying to make them, I would always be like, these guys are perfect. But then I realized that like they also started with like the uhs and ums and all that. And so I'm trying to see if this works, but if it doesn't, leave a comment down below and I'll start editing these a little more. But I hope you enjoy and yeah, please subscribe if you can.